Okay, so the idea is this car will be running around this platform, this racetrack, around like that, and it'll be. We want to know if it's completed a lap, and we don't want to allow cheating by like reversing through checkpoints or something like that. So we're going to make checkpoints, but you have to do them all in the right order, and only the next one is allowed to actually register. So let's make one checkpoint first. So we've got a chip, and we'll need a trigger zone so that we know if the car has been through here. And we'll make it square, make it a box shape, so we can have it just kind of stripe across like that. So let's just drag this in front of the chip roughly, and then it will go across the whole track, and it will be looking for a tag in the car. So let's add a chip to the car, and let's add a tag, and let's name the tag player. So now we can use that same name in our trigger zone and have it look for tags and look for player as well. So we can click on that with X, or we can use up and down on here to cycle through the tags because we're on tag mode. So now that will look for a tag. So now if we look at that, the face of that gadget, and it goes into the trigger zone, then it goes all black because it's registered that it's detected something. So then we want this to do something. So once that checkpoint has been triggered, we want to remember that it's been triggered and allow the next checkpoint to work. So once this goes into this checkpoint, we want to allow the next checkpoint to work and disallow the previous checkpoint from working, so that we can't reverse and go through that checkpoint. It doesn't really matter what happens there, and it only matters if we get to the next one going in the right direction, kind of thing. So we could theoretically reverse around the whole track, but that would be a dumb cheat because you'd still have to finish the rest of that part of the track to actually get a lap time or whatever. So we're going to store whether this checkpoint is the current checkpoint or not using a selector. The selector has many channels, and you can have more or less of them. These ones won't do anything. And only one of them is active at a time, and that's the one lit up, and that will send a signal out of it, and the rest of them won't send a signal out of it. And you can tell it which one to be active in different ways. So one way you can tell it to be active is by sending a signal into a channel. So we're going to use that method. So if the tag is in the trigger zone, then this detected thing will send a value. So we'll plug that into B. So now if we play time and then put that into the trigger zone, when we get to the trigger zone, now it's on B mode, and it doesn't matter if we come out of the trigger zone or go into it a second time, it will just stay on B forever. So what we actually want are 3 settings. The default will be A, and that will be this checkpoint is inactive and it's not trying to find the player or anything. And then B, which is it's looking for the player, and C, it's already found the player. So we'll have 3 ports, 3 channels, and on channel A, nothing is happening. On channel B, we'll power the trigger zone, and then on channel C, we'll set it to channel C when the trigger zone picks up something up. So now if we watch that happening, if we go into the trigger zone now, nothing will happen because that trigger zone is powered off because we're not on the B channel. But if we just set a little test up, so playtime, so I've added a switch into channel B, and then I'll play time, and then just turn it on, so it sets it onto channel B, and then when the car goes into the trigger zone, it will go to channel C and stay on there instead. Cool, so what do we want to happen when this checkpoint is the active one? We want the next one to be active, so let's copy that over here. And we could just wire C into channel B, which will be active and waiting for the car to come along. Or, to make it easier, it's kind of a bit fiddly having to open up these microchips every time. So instead, we're going to have a node, and this node will be a little input nub on the side of the chip. So now we can wire from there into wherever. And we can do the same over here. So we'll add a node over here. So now C will go through that node and out. And we can see that on the outside again. And into the next chip. So that makes it easier to work with. So this node will be to make it active. So we'll call this activate. So playtime, and it goes through this checkpoint, goes into active, this is the active checkpoint. It tells the next one it's the active checkpoint and puts that into waiting for the car mode. Then it goes through here and it does the same. But now this one still thinks it's the active checkpoint, so we need this one to tell this one that it's no longer active. So let's have another node, and we'll call this deactivate, and wire it into here. Now we'll plug that into the same next thing. So when this becomes the current checkpoint, it'll send a signal to the next one to prepare it, and it will send a signal to the previous one to kind of turn it off. So to make a new one, we just copy one, and then we wire deactivate into the next. No, wrong way around. So we go next into activate, and then the next for the new one into the previous one's deactivate. And then we do the same round here. So next we'll activate the next one, and next we'll deactivate the previous one, and then the next from the previous one will activate this one. Oh yes, this is the final one, so we'll plug it in there. So playtime, this one becomes active because we've got that debugging stuff. And now this is the active checkpoint, and the next one is waiting for the car. Goes through there, and then the old one goes into doing nothing mode, and the new one knows that it's active, and then the next one is waiting for the car. Put that through there, and then the one at the bottom is ready, and then down to the bottom one, and then this one becomes waiting for listening for it again. The way you actually get this to work in a actual game would be to have this checkpoint be behind the car, so it's all as if it's already past this checkpoint. Yeah, and then we send a brief signal into activate to tell it that it's the currently active checkpoint. So let's do that quickly with a timeline. And now we can make that smaller with X, dragging the edge with X. And I'm going to use L1 and right on the D-pad, which stretches the time. So now 1 second takes all this space instead of just a little bit. And we can actually see, if I put it down there, you can see little columns. Each one of those is a logic frame. Logic runs at 30 frames per second in Dreams. So we can time things very precisely just by using a timeline. So we want to send a signal for a very short period of time. So let's just have a switch, and that'll send it into activate. And we can just make that really short. So now that switch will be on for that period of time, which is really tiny, and it'll be just long enough for this to register it. So now if we play time, now that activates, and that's how you set up the first checkpoint. Right, so we actually want this one, we're going to call this one the start and finish position. When this becomes activated, it should add 1 to the lap counter thing. So let's just have a lap counter in a chip, like that, and we'll have a counter and a node for when we get the signal that a lap has happened. And you could use this to time how long that lap took, things like that. This particular one will have an extra bit of logic. So when it becomes channel C, it will send a signal. It will start sending a signal. So we use that to turn it into a pulse. So when it starts sending a signal, it will go into this node and add 1 to the counter. So let's just add a number displayer so we can see what the current lap is. So now we go round the checkpoints in the right order, and then it adds to the lap only when you get to the end. Now if we go back and try and go forwards again, nothing will really happen, and that wouldn't help either because that's not doing anything, the one at the bottom. So if you wanted to try and cheat, you'd have to like reverse around the whole course back to this one and then go through the normal checkpoints anyway for it to register. So it's highly unlikely anyone will try and use that as a cheat because it's not really helping them in any way. I'd like to thank Cantaloupe, Woodsense, DeadMC and all of my other supporters for making this tutorial possible. Check out TAPgiles.com to find out how you can support me in helping Dreams creators. Thanks for your consideration, and I'll see you in the next one.